I'm gonna stand up for my self because I'm tired of everybody playing with me, bro. Real.
This wrestling show turned into absolute chaos when UFC legend Rampage Jackson's son, Raja, ran into the ring and attacked Psycho Stu. For real. The crowd went from cheering to screaming in seconds. Kids were crying, and the clips went viral everywhere. But what happened after the attack was even worse. Today, we're breaking down why this is one of the most disturbing wrestling stories ever. But before we dive deep into this story, we need to let you know that we won't be showing every single clip here since the content could get age restricted or even removed from YouTube. The full uncut footage is available through the link in the description for those who want to see exactly what happened. In this video, we'll be walking you through exactly what transpired that night, the shocking details that came out afterward, and why this case is way more disturbing than most people realize. So let's start with the basics. Knox Pro Wrestling is an independent promotion founded by WWE Hall of Famer Rikishi. For 17 years, they've been training wrestlers and putting on shows across Los Angeles. August 23rd was supposed to be just another Friday night event in Sun Valley. Stuart Smith, performing under the name Psycho Stu, was already in the middle of his match when chaos erupted. Out of nowhere, Rampage Jackson, son of UFC legend Rampage Jackson, jumped into the ring. This wasn't announced, there was no entrance music, and it definitely wasn't part of any storyline. What followed wasn't wrestling. It was a brutal, real-life assault. Raja unleashed a series of devastating strikes on Stu, who was completely unprepared for what was happening. Within seconds, the crowd realized this wasn't entertainment. It was genuine violence unfolding in front of their eyes. Parents covered their children's eyes. Wrestlers rushed from backstage, and phones came out everywhere, capturing footage that would soon go viral for all the wrong reasons. The atmosphere in that arena shifted from excitement to horror in mere moments. Now, if you follow wrestling, you know accidents happen. Wrestlers call them botches. When a move goes wrong, someone slips, or timing gets messed up. But what Rampage Jackson did was fundamentally different, and understanding that difference is crucial. Wrestling botches are unintentional. They're embarrassing, sometimes painful, but nobody means for them to happen. The foundation of professional wrestling is trust. Performers rely on each other to execute moves safely while making them look devastating. Raja's attack shattered that trust completely. This wasn't a missed move or poor timing. It was targeted, aggressive, and showed zero concern for his victim's safety. Every punch and slam was delivered with full intent to cause harm. There's an unspoken rule in wrestling: protect your opponent. Even in the most hardcore matches, the performer's primary job is keeping each other safe. When something goes genuinely wrong, wrestlers stop immediately and check on their partner. That night, there was no protection, no checking, no care, just pure violence. What made it even more shocking was that Raja wasn't even supposed to be in that match. This was an invasion, not a performance gone wrong. Nobody in the building, not Stu, not his opponent, not the referee, knew what was coming. Here's where the story gets even more disturbing. When Stu collapsed and was clearly unable to continue, you'd expect the referee to immediately stop the match and call for medical help. That's Wrestling 101. When someone's hurt, you protect them. Instead, the referee made a decision that left fans absolutely furious. He told Stu's opponent to continue and make the pin. Think about that. A man was lying unconscious, possibly dying, and the official acted like it was just another night at the office. This wasn't just poor judgment. It raised serious questions about whether this referee understood his basic responsibilities. Some thought he was confused, maybe believing the attack was a part of the show. Others suspected he panicked and just went with the flow. But here's the reality. In smaller promotions like Knox Pro, referees often don't have the same training as those in major companies. They might be part-timers without the experience to handle real emergencies. Still, that doesn't excuse what happened when someone's life was on the line. That decision to count the pin while Stu lay motionless has become one of the most criticized moments of the entire incident. It showed how badly priorities can get twisted when the show must go on mentality overrides basic human decency. Within hours, the incident exploded across social media. TikTok, Reddit, Instagram, Twitter, everywhere you looked, people were sharing clips and expressing their horror at what they had witnessed. Reddit communities went into overdrive. Wrestling forums debated whether this was the darkest moment in modern independent wrestling history. MMA subreddits compared Raja's aggression to actual cage fights, pointing out how he treated Stu like an enemy in the octagon rather than a fellow performer. What made this different from typical wrestling controversies was how it spread beyond wrestling circles. Usually, these incidents stay within fan communities. But this footage was so obviously real violence that it caught the attention of people who don't normally care about wrestling at all. News outlets like TMZ and USA Today picked up the story. Local Los Angeles stations ran it on their evening broadcasts. The son of a UFC legend attacking someone at a wrestling show was the perfect storm for viral content. The emotional impact was particularly significant. Parents shared stories about their children being traumatized, saying their kids were too scared to ever watch wrestling again. When the heat got too intense, Nox Pro released an official statement trying to do damage control. But instead of calming things down, their response made fans even angrier. They called Raja's actions a selfish, irresponsible act of violence, which seemed appropriate. But then they claimed this was supposed to be a planned and agreed upon spot, wrestling terminology for a scripted sequence that went too far. Fans weren't buying it. If this was planned, why did it look so chaotic and unprofessional? Why wasn't there better control over the situation? Most importantly, if Raja had suffered a concussion just days earlier, which we later learned was true, why was he allowed to perform at all? The statement felt like Nox Pro was trying to shift blame rather than accept responsibility. People started questioning the company's safety record and their decision-making process. For a promotion that had operated for 17 years, with connections to WWE's development system, this was a devastating blow to their reputation. Critics pointed out that independent wrestling often lacks the strict medical protocols of major companies. But that doesn't excuse putting a concussed performer in the ring or failing to stop a match when someone's life was in danger. The pressure on Quentin Rampage Jackson was immense. His son had just become the most hated person in wrestling, and everyone wanted to know what the UFC legend had to say about it. When Rampage finally spoke, he revealed something that completely changed the narrative. He confirmed that Raja had suffered a concussion just days before the event. According to Rampage, his son was in no condition to wrestle and should have never been in that ring. Rampage also publicly apologized to Stuart Smith and his family, which many saw as the right thing to do. But it also raised uncomfortable questions. If Rampage knew about the concussion, why didn't he intervene? Did he warn Nox Pro about his son's condition? The concussion details shifted some focus from Raja to the promotion itself. If Nox Pro knew about his injury and still allowed him to perform, that's not just poor judgment, it's potentially criminal negligence. Behind the Psycho Stu character is Stuart Smith, a dedicated independent wrestler who built his reputation through years of hard work in small venues across the West Coast. Unlike the superstars you see on television, Stu represented the heart of independent wrestling, performers who do it for passion rather than big paychecks. Independent wrestling is tough. There's no guaranteed income, no health insurance, and no safety net. Wrestlers like Stu work day jobs to support themselves and wrestle because they genuinely love the art form. He developed a following among hardcore fans who appreciated his willingness to take risks and put on exciting matches. The attack left him with devastating injuries, broken facial bones, missing teeth, and nearly choking on his own blood before paramedics arrived. What makes this particularly heartbreaking is that Stu was known for being humble and friendly outside the ring. He'd sign autographs after matches and thank fans for supporting independent wrestling. He embodied everything good about the indie wrestling scene. Now he faces months or years of recovery, massive medical bills, and the psychological trauma of being attacked while doing what he loved. Fans have started fundraising campaigns to help with his expenses, but the long-term impact on his career remains uncertain. Raja Jackson's background in mixed martial arts training made this incident exponentially more dangerous. Most people entering wrestling start in schools where they learn the fundamental difference between real combat and sports entertainment. Raja grew up around actual fighting. In MMA, the goal is to hurt your opponent until they submit or the referee stops the fight. Wrestling requires the complete opposite mindset, working together to create the illusion of combat while keeping everyone safe. For someone trained in real fighting, making that mental switch isn't automatic. There's also the pressure of living up to his father's legacy. Rampage Jackson was known for explosive knockouts and memorable moments in UFC. Growing up with that expectation might have pushed Raja to prove himself in dangerous ways. The Los Angeles Police Department quickly opened an investigation, recognizing that what happened went far beyond the boundaries of sports entertainment. While wrestling is normally scripted, this was clearly a real assault that occurred in public. Legal experts immediately began discussing potential charges. Aggravated assault and battery seemed likely, but given the severity of Stu's injuries, attempted murder charges weren't out of the question. The fact that everything was recorded on multiple phones made building a case much easier. But Raja isn't the only one under legal scrutiny. Investigators are also examining Knox Pro's role in this incident. Allowing a concussed performer in the ring could constitute negligence. The referee's decision to continue the match instead of calling for immediate medical attention might also carry legal consequences. Civil lawsuits are another possibility. Stu and his family could sue for medical expenses, lost income, and emotional trauma. Fans who witnessed the attack might also claim psychological damage, though proving that in court is more challenging. The case is complicated by Raja's high-profile family connections. Some worry that his father's status might influence the outcome, while others argue that the publicity makes it impossible for authorities to show leniency. Raja Jackson's future looks drastically different than it did just weeks ago. Before this incident, he might have pursued careers at MMA or wrestling, following his father's athletic legacy. Those opportunities have now vanished entirely. The legal process will likely determine much of his immediate future. Potential criminal charges could result in significant prison time, effectively ending any possibility of a public career in sports or entertainment. Even if he avoids jail time, his reputation is permanently damaged. No wrestling promotion would risk bringing in someone known for such dangerous behavior. His MMA prospects are similarly destroyed, as that industry values discipline and professionalism. The concussion factor adds another layer of complexity. If brain injury truly contributed to his actions, medical evaluation and treatment might be necessary. This could influence both legal proceedings and public perception of his culpability. Unfortunately, the Raja Jackson incident isn't the first time wrestling has crossed the line from entertainment into real danger. Wrestling history is filled with moments where things went terribly wrong, and understanding these past incidents helps explain why what happened to Psycho Stu was so shocking. One of the most famous tragedies happened in 1999 during a WWE pay-per-view event. Owen Hart, a beloved wrestler, was supposed to make a dramatic entrance by lowering from the ceiling on a cable. But something went wrong with the equipment, and Owen fell over 70 feet into the ring in front of thousands of fans. He died instantly. The worst part? WWE continued the show, even after Owen's death, which many fans still can't forgive. Then there's the Chris Benoit case from 2007. Benoit was a respected wrestler who seemed like a family man, but over one weekend he killed his wife, his young son, and then himself. Doctors later found that his brain was severely damaged from years of head injuries in wrestling. This tragedy completely changed how wrestling companies think about concussions and brain damage. Back in the 1980s and 90s, some wrestlers became known for being genuinely dangerous in the ring. A wrestler named New Jack was famous for actually hurting his opponents during matches. He would use real weapons and hit people for real, not just for show. Other wrestlers were afraid to work with him because they knew they might get seriously injured. There have also been incidents where wrestlers went into business for themselves. Wrestling slang for when someone breaks the script and starts fighting for real. In 1997, the famous Montreal Screwjob happened when WWE owner Vince McMahon changed the ending of a match without telling one of the wrestlers. That wrestler, Bret Hart, was so angry that he actually punched McMahon backstage after the show. More recently, in 2019, a wrestler named Joey Ryan was accused of using wrestling matches to inappropriately touch other performers. This led to a huge scandal where many wrestlers came forward with similar stories about inappropriate behavior in the wrestling world. Hiro Matsuda, a famous wrestling trainer, was known for being extremely rough with students. He would legitimately hurt people during training sessions, claiming it was to toughen them up. Many wrestlers from the 1980s and 90s have horror stories about their time training with him. Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you found this story insane, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because the next video is even crazier, and trust me, you won't want to miss it.